Okay. All right, so hopefully everybody can see the screen and the bill list. So like I said, even this was narrowing it down quite a bit, and there's still quite a few bills that are related to physical health and wellness. So the first one, and a few of these we were fortunate to go over with this morning with Assemblywoman Michelle Gorlow. She joined us for the coffee chat. So this first one is one of those, SB 86, and this requires the state plan for Medicaid to include coverage. Oh, she didn't go over this one, sorry, my apologies. But it includes coverage for donor breast milk and certain related products. And I personally think this is a great bill because we know that not all moms are able to produce their own breast milk. And so this gives an alternative to formula on where they can access some of those resources. Oops. There we go. The next bill is AB 189. This is the one that she went over this morning. Clearly, I have not had my coffee yet. So this provides presumptive Medicaid eligibility for pregnant women, which is great. So that way they can access care earlier, because we know that typically during the first 2 trimesters, that's when we want to get the women in. Well, hopefully within the first trimester, but more than likely some of the women are not getting it until their 3rd trimester, which is too late to receive that care. So this will hopefully allow women to access those services a lot earlier in their pregnancy. The next one is AB 191, and this requires Medicaid coverage of services provided by community health workers. And this is a really exciting bill to be able to expand that coverage. And we're actually going to have a panel this morning at 9 a.m. that is going to talk about community health workers, and we have some videos that we're going to share as well. The next part of this is AB 193, and this expands Medicaid coverage of postpartum and other services for pregnant women. So right now, a lot of services are only covered 60 to 90 days after a woman gives birth, and so this is going to extend some of those coverages, including things like access to treatment for postpartum depression for up to a year after the woman gives birth. The next bill is SB 176, and this one has to do with changing regulations for a minor receiving an abortion. So they have to have parental consent. They have to notify parents before this, or get a court decision that the parents don't have to be notified. So I put this up so people are familiar with it, or not familiar with, get introduced to it. I'm not familiar with this legislation, but I wanted to make sure that that people were aware. Yes, Kelly, go ahead.
Do you mind if I just ask real quick, whose bill is that, the SB 176? Do you know?
That is, sorry, let me pull it. Of course, I had all of these up, and then
I can look it up, Amanda.
Oh, thank you. So as she looks that up, did you have any comments on it, Kelly, or want to say, or just curious who's doing it?
Just curious. This is the first time I've seen it as well. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. So SB 40, this bill is related to the collection of certain healthcare data to make sure that we get more points about understanding the quality and the cost of healthcare. And then along with that, it's requiring the Department of Health and Human Services to publish a report on the quality and cost of healthcare. So that way we can better understand that and find gaps and challenges. The next one is SB 2, and this one we talked about earlier this week as it's got many different components, but part of this was including the removal of the requirement to collect height and weight data that helps us understand BMI in the state. And this was really led by Clark County because they were having some issues with this. However, I know that they were looking for some amendments to go in to just reduce the grades that they were measuring this in rather than removing the measurement altogether. So The next one is AB 59, and this increases the minimum age to purchase tobacco products to 21. So previously, or currently, I should say that for many of those is 18. And so this would make it align with tobacco or alcohol and some of those other requirements. And then,
Amanda?
yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It's not SB 176, it's AB 176,
Oh, my apologies.
and it's Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you for looking that up. And I'm
Thank
sorry,
you
I
very
will make
much.
sure to
I
change it.
knew I thought it was an AB bill because I saw it the other day and was concerned.
Did you want to talk more about that on what you saw, especially as a parent? Wait.
Well, I don't. So essentially, you know, it's trying to to make sure that there's parental consent. This can be problematic in a lot of cases when a young woman may be pregnant due to you know, incest or rape. So so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of advocacy around this particular bill. So, and I think it's also important to note that although the bill has been introduced, that does not mean it will get a bill hearing. So just for everybody's edification.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, and even though there's that provision in there that they can go to court or get get an exemption for that, it's, you know, without some type of advice or any, I don't know how somebody in that state would be able to manage that or do that on their own for a lot
But-
of the women.
And that was my concern, that by the time a district court authorized it, it would be past the window. So I think there's a few problems with that particular bill, but
Not to mention, how do you get to court as a minor?
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
I agree.
They did put the provision in, which I was, you know, sometimes, I don't know, I was surprised to see this and glad that the minor can request that the parents are not notified of the court hearing, because I was like, how that doesn't really do any good either if the parent is notified. Not that that by any means takes away some of those other things, but I was like, well, at least they thought of, you know, that one piece. But yeah, there's definitely, and this was the first time looking through this morning that I had seen this as well. So yeah, it's definitely, I think, one to keep an eye on.
so, you know, it's really interesting because for if you're going, I mean, there's so many BDRs. When you're looking through the BDR list, you know, they're obviously very limited. I make it a point every day to go and look at whether I watch the floor sessions or not. I look at the agendas because there's more of a description at that point on what has been introduced that day, and that's when I usually get the red flags going up about different bills. And oh, this every day now I go through and look Gorlo to see if that bill has, you know, because I know she doesn't have time to necessarily text me and let me know, hey, it's finally being introduced. So so that's a really good way to keep track of what's coming out and find things that weren't necessarily going to be on your radar.
Yes, absolutely. It is quite a process. That's why it takes a community, right? We're all looking out for different bills because it's so easy to miss something in this session that it goes by, you know, so quickly. Okay.
Amanda, I just wanted to mention one more thing about something that Assemblywoman Gorlo mentioned this morning, that AB 193 on the list above is going to be amended into AB 189. So if you're worried that you don't see AB 193 moving, it's because it's going to be amended into the other bill. And so that can happen, especially now when they're trying to condense the number of bills that are being processed because of time. So I just wanted to make everyone aware that it will happen. And so don't be concerned if you don't see AB 193 going to the governor's office.
Perfect. Thank you for mentioning that. And then the last two that we just have down on here, they're not
Oh.
bills yet. Oh, go ahead.
So you were started to talk about AB 59, and it's important to point out that so the federal law makes selling to minors under 21 illegal. It's the state law, though, that enforces that law. And so the American Academy of Pediatrics Nevada chapter, but also several public health departments are all right now opposed to the bill because it has no teeth. And if you look at the comments, the only group that is in favor of this bill is the Vaping Coalition. So it is one to watch and advocate on.
Perfect. Great to know. Thank you. So again, the next two that are BDRs, one of them was brought up this morning too, that it provides Medicaid coverage for doulas, which is a great expansion. And then the next one, I don't have any additional information on. It's being tracked by another group on the Partners for Healthy Nevada, and it's making revisions related to food policies. And since it's a BDR right now, I don't have additional information, but 3 Square is tracking this bill, and it's a priority for them. So if you are interested, and I'm sorry we didn't have time to reach out prior to get more information, but you can reach out to them to see, or just kind of keep an eye out for any movement, or once this bill gets language. Again, by next week, they're really going to be pushing. So hopefully we'll have a lot more knowledge of some of these bills next week. And then just very quickly, here are the bill hearings that are going to be today that are related to children's issues. So again, these are all over the spectrum. So one, we have some on education that is relating or making some changes to career and technical education for some of those opportunities. The second one, AB 109, requires all teachers at a charter school to have a teacher's license. So this is quite a big change because a lot of them you didn't have to have that, but they are giving people until July 1st, 2026 in order to enact that. And I put that on there too because it can be really important to recognize that if they started this like this July, there's no way anybody would have a chance to obtain their degree or make that change, and then they'd be out a lot of classrooms really fast for a lot of those schools. So that enforcement is going to come a couple years down the row. Okay, the next one is SB 7 that will be heard in judiciary, and this provides for protection of when it really aligns that if somebody is under the age of 18 years old and they're actually being, the way I understand it, they're being charged with any one of these things, that it makes it all go under the juvenile all under the juvenile court. So that way they're not in many different courts and they don't know where it's falling under. So if they are under 18, if they're 18, it's different. So it has to be 7. So it's 17 and under, that it would all be under the juvenile court. For SB 19, this looks at the ability for places to request criminal history of not only people who are providing direct care or placement of kids, but also anybody who would have access to those children. So that way, if you're putting somebody, for example, and they already have some provisions for this, but like in a foster home or in a guardianship home, it would be, if you had a roommate or some other family member that lived there, they would also be required, or they would have the ability to request that they get a background check too, so they know that that individual is in a safe place. For SB 146, this is going to be in the Committee on Health and Human Services, and this looks at mental health services for kids. So before admitting them into a facility, if they are under the jurisdiction of family services, that they have to make sure they're consulting with any existing psychiatric care, and that psychiatrist, if that psychiatrist says that they don't think that they should be in an inpatient facility, then they're not allowed to admit them. And if they are admitted, they have to consult with the child. And if that child wants the psychiatrist to stay involved in the treatment, then that facility has to work with the psychiatrist. So is trying to align some of that treatment planning. Shar, I don't know if you have more information on this one.
No, well, I think there are some concerns about how we would be able to mandate that when we send so many of our kids out of state. So we don't have a lot of options for RTC here in Nevada. So that could be problematic. But
And I do know that there's an amendment that's being proposed on that bill that was just finalized yesterday. I don't know the contents at this point. I haven't looked it over, but
Okay, I should definitely keep an eye on that, because there shouldn't be any reason why that would be any different for in-state and out-of-state, right?
so
I mean, that it could.
one of the problems is that when it's a payment problem, really. So and this is a discussion we've had a lot in the consortia, is about this idea of our kids are coming back into state. We have a date, but we can't start any like intensive care coordination. We only have 2 weeks to do that, which it takes a lot of time to do that planning. So if we need some sort of step down, because going from this very restrictive environment back to the community without any kind of like mid-level step down treatment is difficult, but it's also difficult when we don't have intensive care coordination ready to assist not just the kid but the family, or even if the child or youth is going into foster care, to assist the foster family with the supports that they're going to need.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for expanding on that.
But at the end of the day, can we get a bill for more community-based services? That would be
Right.
great. Let's prevent our kids from needing to go to RTC.
Absolutely. And then the last one, finally, and again, I don't have a lot of information on this one or background, but it's making changes, being able to receive assistance from the Kinship Guardian Assistance Program. So when a relative decides to foster a youth because their parents can't anymore, they try to make sure that it's or try first to get somebody that already has a relationship with that child, preferably family. So, and I'm not sure what the issue was before, but they had to meet certain eligibility requirements in order for them to get some of that financial assistance, and this removes some of those requirements. And it removes the requirement that the child, if they were previously able to be permanently returned to their home or to be adopted, I'm not sure why, but they weren't able to get this assistance. So that takes that requirement away, but there are still other requirements in place. So that's kind of an overview of the bill hearings for today. And I have to apologize because I totally blew right over our starting off with our Strong Start cabinet videos in the morning. So Annette, I am so sorry. We just were talking about bills in the morning and then just got so excited went right into the other bills. So I'm going to stop there and go back to where we should have started. And if you want to introduce that, that would be amazing.
No problem. Thank you, Amanda. I just thought you had a certain order today, a little different, so no worries. We are thrilled to introduce our video today, which is Hannah Haas. And again, we've talked about how we had a Strong Start Governor, I guess it's a contest, and 4th and 5th graders wrote in and had to come up with their campaign and their interests and their speech. And one was chosen as the governor, and then the rest of them became cabinet members. And so they each had the opportunity to come up with their own title. And we were all thrilled to see what Hannah chose, because Hannah chose to have herself be the Director of Kindness. And we thought, what a great title. We could use more directors of kindness in the world, especially at this time. And so Hannah's video is all about that, kindness. And she launched Kindness Week in the North. She connected with the library, which was writing kind notes to people in the community and just individuals who needed a lift. So she copied that pattern and took it back to her school. And she also did sidewalk chalk and wrote that throughout the community, notes of encouragement and kindness. So she's doing a great job. And Hannah is connecting with different members in our community, such as the Be Kind Foundation. And she is also connecting with, you may not know, but Nevada is one of the compassionate states, and they have something called Compassionate Las Vegas. And Will Rutger runs that. And when he heard her title, he was jealous and said he may change his title to that. But there's talks about having this Strong Start cabinet be on a panel with him on his podcast. And so many good things coming, and she's encouraging kindness. So we'll be thrilled to see her video now.
Hi, I'm Hannah Haas, and I'm the Director of Kindness for the Nevada Strong Start Cabinet. Kindness is my specialty. To me, kindness is friendship and caring for others. My goal is to spread kindness all over Nevada. I want to help kids in Nevada to learn how to spread kindness and stand up to bullies. Bye for now.
Thank you. And then she and her mother also did a kind of a kindness, like the cootie catchers. I'm sure there's a professional name for them, but they did a whole video on that. And I think that's also on our YouTube channel. That's a little bit longer that you can watch and some more information about kindness and things that they're doing. So thank you, Amanda, for letting us share that.
Sorry, I was just putting, I put in the chat the link to the other video, but they are also all on just in general in the Strong Start channel. So that way you can go back and watch any of those wonderful videos at any time and share them through social media as well. So that brings us to the next part of our program, where we go over each morning some of the different tips and ways to advocate. And we've been so thankful to have Jeanette Bells, who has been helping to go over some of that information this morning. So or every morning this week, which has been great. We've had lots of very positive feedback from those overviews. So we are going to move on to that. I just wanted to see it before we do, if anybody else had any comments or questions about either the Strong Start Cabinet or any of the bills that we went over this morning while I'm bringing it up.
Amanda, I did see that Leanne McAllister said that they were also watching several bills. I don't know if she wants to review those, Leanne.
Sure, just quickly, SB 224 is the period poverty bill for adolescent girls who are missing school because they can't afford feminine hygiene products. And it would, other states, I've worked with other Nevada, American Academy of Pediatrics chapter leaders in other states that have helped to get this passed. So we're gonna be advocating for that, because no teenage girl should miss school because she can't afford feminine hygiene products. SB 118 is looking to bring Nevada's state laws in line with other states in terms of safety for car seats for children. Our state laws are inadequate compared to other states. And then SB 139 is Medicaid coverage for gender dysmorphia. I have a number of pediatrician members who are very concerned about this. We see a very high youth suicide rate among teens with gender identity issues, and the type of treatments we're talking about are entirely reversible in adulthood, but it does give adolescents the option if they want to. The bill numbers are in the chat. So SB 224. But so I think SB 139's hearing is, the first hearing is tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And I think I have at least one member who's going to be giving some testimony then.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Leanne. And after we do our the brief advocacy 101 training, we're actually going to show the video from Leanne's group with the Nevada Association for the or the Academy of Pediatrics. Wow, I'm again I'm working on the coffee to wake my brain up a little bit. So thank you for your patience with me this morning.
Totally understandable.
But they submitted a brief video that goes over some of their policy priorities, their public policy priorities, and that's available on the YouTube channel as well. So we will see that again after we do the bill introductions or the advocacy training.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for going over those. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. I will. Do you want to start off, Jeanette? Do you want me to share the slide?
That would be great.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Jeanette Beltz, and I've been lobbying in the state of Nevada for 25 years now. Have my own company, and we are lobbying representatives for the Children's Advocacy Alliance, and very excited about the partnership that we started late last year. Just wanted to give a brief overview. I'm following up on every single legislator that we've had in coffee chat this week about how important it is for all of you to get involved. And what's exciting and this legislative session, and one of the silver linings of the virtual nature in which we're conducting the legislative session, is there are lots of options on how to participate. And as we are all doing this from our homes or office this morning, you don't have to drive to Grant Sawyer Building in Las Vegas or down to Carson City to the Legislative Building in order to be able to participate. And I have to say that has been phenomenal. And I've seen public comment about bills definitely increase. And I think that's a wonderful outcome from this adversity. So when we talk about how to advocate, I'm just always amazed by the number of bills that legislators are making decisions about, anything from environmental issues, those are going to be coming up, to how to deal with workers' compensation, to education bills, health bills, as we've heard. And so it's really, really important on your end to be very concise about what the message is that you want to relay to a legislator. They have a lot coming at them, bill numbers, topics. So I always like to look at it as trying to figure out what are the 2 or 3 things, if I had a very short period of time with someone, which is usually the case in the legislative session, what are the 2 or 3 things that I would want to make sure that they knew about whatever it is I was lobbying about when we parted ways. And the best way that we find in our group to do that is, first of all, to just kind of throw it all on the table and then create some message points about those 2 or 3 most important things. In that way, you're going to be, it will allow you to condense everything to be brief when you are actually given the opportunity to make a presentation. That doesn't mean, however, that you can't supplant information that's more lengthy, a white paper, with references and all that. That can all be submitted in written format. So don't be discouraged about all the great work you've done and that it won't see the light of day. That can be submitted as a handout for a committee hearing, and certainly something that you can reference and will be there in perpetuity related to the bill that you're testifying on. So tell your story, often a personal story. I know Assemblywoman Gorlow talked about collecting stories. That's a great way to do it as well, and have individuals with personal stories can also be very effective. There was a mom that testified yesterday about how her adopted child was born with their intestines on the outside of their body. Those are things that people remember. So those are very helpful. We really, really feel that it's important to meet with your legislative representatives. Everybody has 2. in the state of Nevada at the legislature. One is your senator, and the other is your assembly representative. There's 21 legislators, in the Senate, so 21 senators and 42 members of the assembly. Amazingly enough, they're extremely accessible, really, compared to other states where there's layers of staff. You might meet with a staff person. Here, it's very, very likely that you will have the opportunity to meet with your legislator. On the legislative website, there are two lists. One is the Senate and all their contact information, and the other is Assembly and all their contact information. When you do reach out to your assembly or senator, assembly member or senator, make sure to tell whoever's answered the phone that you're a constituent. If you are writing an email, in the first line, I'm a constituent of yours. They want to hear from you. Those are the, you are the folks that will be having the opportunity to vote for them. You are the folks that had the opportunity to get them into office. So they really, really want to know what you're thinking. And don't be embarrassed if you don't know who your legislator is. That happens. And certainly when there's been a change, there were a whole bunch of new freshmen that were elected this last election in 2020. So if you haven't had the chance to figure out who that is yet, there is a easy link, which Amanda will be putting in the chat, that describes, all you have to do is put in your address and your zip code, and that will take you to a map. And that map will mark your little, your house. So don't forget to put in your personal address where you live as opposed to the address where you work, because that's where you are defined as a voter, is where you live. And that will give you not only your senator, your Nevada senator and your Nevada assembly person, but also a few other folks that represent you at different levels of government. And that way you will know who your representative is. You can go back to those lists and reach out to them. They even have numbers to reach out to them in the interim between legislative sessions. So if you want to bring them up to speed on a new program, that's going to be launching, let's say, later this year, or have them have a tour of your facility, that's a great thing to reach out to legislative sessions, which is roughly 18 months. So plenty of time to get that accomplished. If you want to advocate for a particular bill, try to meet with that legislator, or at the very least send emails to the members of the committee that will be discussing a bill. When a bill is introduced, it's given a bill number, there's a description on it, but it also indicates at the very top of the bill where that is going to be referred. So, for example, an Assembly Health Committee or a Senate Health Committee, and on the legislative website, there's also committee information, and you just click through there, you can find the committee members. There's actually links directly to their profiles from there. So you can learn a little bit about the legislators if you'd like before you send that email. I also want to mention here that we don't only watch bill presentations, but there are also budget presentations that are provided throughout the legislative session, because one of the responsibilities that the legislature has is to review the budget that the governor submitted to them in January, and to really review that in great detail, kind of dissect it sometimes to understand where the money's going, what it's funding, what new enhancements, for example, are being proposed. It could also be possibly a cut that's being proposed. And so that's a great opportunity on specific budget items that you may be interested in. For example, education and early learning, the Medicaid budget, um, um, subsidies for childcare, all those have a particular budget account, and you can listen to those hearings. At the end of those, there's always time for public comment, and you can comment about how detrimental a cut would be, or how wonderful it is that they're enhancing services to, for example, treat more kids and or reduce waiting lists, as an example. The legislative website is a treasure trove of information, www.leg.state.nv.us. I would encourage you to poke around there. There is an amazing amount of detail, not only about this session, but about previous sessions. We often go back and look back to understand maybe what the legislature did on a particular topic in a previous legislative session. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how you, from your computer, can actually participate in the legislative session. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So I am disabled from screen sharing, Amanda. If you could give me that back. Well, I'm not sure Amanda is there. Maybe she took a well-deserved break.
Sorry, I'm here. I just missed it. Can you?
I'm sorry, I can't screen share. It says the host disabled me.
Oh, my apologies. Let me fix that. I was searching for my chat. I couldn't find it to be able to share the other link, so that's why I was a little distracted. My apologies, but I just let you share.
I know
and, and now my chat returned, so I'll also put that link.
Awesome, thank you. So this is an infographic that we put together. We'll put the link to that also in the chat about how to virtually participate in this legislative session. As we mentioned, the legislative website here, this is a link through there as well. At the very top of that page, the home page, the welcoming page to the legislature, is a blue box all the way in the right-hand corner that's scheduled meetings. And that will take you to all the meetings that have been actually scheduled at the legislature right now. You'll notice when you go there that there's meetings scheduled for today, but there's also meetings scheduled into next week. And as soon as a bill agenda is posted, that agenda and the hearing actually will be listed on that. For the bills that are for the meetings, excuse me, that are scheduled for today, you can scroll down and pick the one that you are interested in. So for example, this one was from yesterday, Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services. This is the bill that Assemblywoman Gorlow mentioned, and two other bills that were heard at that hearing as well. And on the day of the hearing, so not future meetings on future days, but all the meetings for today, there will be these two links underneath the meeting time. The first is to view this event through the legislative website itself. And the other link is the legislature also has a YouTube channel, and you can view this through the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel can offer some advantages in the sense that you can stop it and advance to catch up, or if you had to take a 10-minute break to take a phone call, it'll just start where you stopped the video. And even though you'll be 10 minutes delayed, you'll still be able to see what's going on. So that's a nice advantage. Also on the YouTube channel, as well as on the legislative website, but it's a little easier to find them on the YouTube channel. All these will be available even you know, 30 days after the hearing. So you'll be able to go back and look at a YouTube video about bill. For example, if someone just brought a bill to your attention and you know that it had a hearing, you just go back to that date on the YouTube channel and the hearing that it was heard in, and you can follow that bill as if it were being heard today. Then once you're at that bill hearing, so you've picked this one, there will be additional meeting details option, and you will see the options that you have to participate. So this particular hearing was on 3/1. It was online. It started at 3:30. And there are two options for becoming involved. The first one is to submit an opinion. We'll go through that. And the second one is to actually participate in a more active way. So to submit an opinion, just click that submit an opinion box. That will take you to the option shown here. You can select a bill. This is a drop-down box. So these are designed for each hearing that you can select the bill, or you can type in a bill number and get information about it. If there's a bill, for example, that's not on the hearing that day, but you still want to submit information about it, you can get information about that bill. And then below, you can indicate whether you're in favor or against the bill, so opposed. And then there's up to 2,000 characters that you can submit here as to the reasoning why you support or oppose the bill. We always encourage people, if they oppose the bill, if there's something that would make the bill better. So for example, if the bill has to do with people that are 21 and older, but you would feel better, you're against the bill because it doesn't incorporate people that are 18 and over, I would say you would click that you're against it. But in here, you could say something like, you know, we're opposed to this bill. It would be really fantastic if it could be amended so that it impacted people 18 or over, and that would make us in support. So you can put all kinds of information in there, and I like to add a little more color and understanding for those that are going to be reading that bill. Excuse me, that opinion. You will be asked for some personal information when you do submit an opinion. It's not made public or shared, and you can view opinions generally on another page at the legislature. But the reason they ask you for that information is they want to direct that opinion to your legislative representatives. So even if you don't know who they are, this is an option for you to be able to get information to them about bills that you feel strongly about.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Hey, so on that piece, the legislator does see that information, and it's important because sometimes if they see a comment that really strikes a chord with them, they will pick up the phone and call. And many of the legislators actually run these reports daily or weekly to see what the feel is in their personal communities.
And I love that color, Shar. I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know, Shar served with as a legislative liaison with Assemblyman Carrillo for I don't know how many years it was, Shar, but you saw firsthand what a public opinion means, and I really, really appreciate your adding that. You can also submit public comment. So up here where you have the option to submit an opinion or participate, if you click the participate button, also on the additional meeting details section, you'll be taken to a meeting participation page where you will be asked for some basic information about yourself. You'll select whether you want to comment on the agenda item that's on that agenda for that meeting, or just give general public comment. If you have specifics about a bill, I would definitely click the agenda item so that you will be taken down here, and there you can pick that actual bill or budget off of the agenda, so they'll be listed here. Again, those are specific to the meeting. Here on the position, that you will have the option for support, oppose, or for or against. I can't remember exactly how it's worded. And then neutral, they'll ask you who you're representing, and indicate here if you want to speak on that item. So it'd be great if you wanted to speak, as Assemblywoman Gorlow mentioned this morning. They'd love to hear from you. And you can add this item. You can actually speak about more than one item here. So if there's another agenda item, for example, it's Children's Mental Health Day, and there's two bills that you would be interested in speaking on that agenda, feel free to click both of them and add as an item. It's going to verify that you're not a robot. And when you submit, it says the meeting participation is successful, and you will be shown call-in information at that time. So all all comment about bills, so testimony about bills in favor or opposed, is given by the phone. And usually there is a time limit. We have seen time limits as low as 2 minutes. That is determined by the chair. So you'll want to make sure, and especially as these bills start coming out and hearings start getting longer because there's more bills that are going to be considered on a particular day, you're going to see time limitations like this. So just make sure that your testimony fits into 2 minutes. It's possible you'll get longer. We can always talk longer, but if you only have 2 minutes, you want to make sure that you get to everything. So it's helpful to prepare your remarks beforehand. Some people actually write it out to make sure that they don't miss anything. Other folks work well from bullet points. So whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Please remember that at the beginning of your testimony, you'll be asked to identify yourself. So, hi, good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Jeanette Belts. Don't forget to spell it at that point, because you are making the record clear for the folks that transcribe who you are, and then proceed with your testimony. Just a quick tip, they will call you when it's your turn to testify by the last 3 digits of your phone number. So make sure you kind of have that in your brain, what they are, because when it's your turn, the person in the broadcast booth will say something like, well, the person with the last 3 digits of 879, it's your turn to proceed. And at that point, you will have to make sure a couple things. One is you may have put your own phone on mute in order to cut background noise for you to be able to hear. Make sure when it's your turn, so make sure your own phone is off mute, and then follow the instructions that were given to you in the when you first signed up about what the instructions are to take your phone off mute for their system. So both of those, so the legislators can hear you. And they will cut you off if you go over the 2 minutes, and just say you're at time, please wrap up. And then you have about just a few seconds to finish what you wanted to say. So again, just encouraging you to submit. If you have more than 2 minutes worth of information or other backup, submit it. And that can be done as similar to your written testimony. If you're not comfortable speaking, you can put some thoughts down on paper. Every single agenda at the legislature has a section at the bottom, and that gives you the email address at which to send written testimony that you might want to be submitting, or other documents in support of your testimony, and those are submitted to, this one happens to be Senate Education. Each committee has their own email address here. I wanted to add something that I haven't talked about before, and that is just the fact that I saw a very clever submission here under written testimony a few weeks ago. Robin Reedy from the Alliance for the Mentally Ill, National Alliance for the Mentally Ill Nevada chapter, submitted a 1-minute video. And it was as part of a submission, and you could click on the link that was given as the exhibit, and there you were, I believe it was a YouTube, I'm not 100% sure, but you clicked on it and you got her testimony in a 1-minute video. So I thought that was really clever, and just wanted to throw it out there. If you had someone, for example, that might have stage fright doing it live, they may be able to put some testimony on a video and submit that, and you could do multiple retakes. Down here at the very bottom is the click through to the link on the legislative website about how to participate. So I believe this might be in the chat, but I will check.
Yes, I just put it in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that's about it. Amanda, if you just want to review the website that you all have out there with all that great information.
Yeah, so just a reminder that we do have a website for Children's Week. That way it's, you know, kind of a landing page and resource to look at the schedule for each day. Plus we have some of the, it lists all of our partners, and then here are some of the resources that we have for the week, including Jeanette's how to participate in the legislative session. And then we are also going to be putting up here under each day some of the videos for the testimony that we've been seeing each week. Plus we are going to be putting the recordings that we are doing each morning. We'll have that up as well. So you can, and we'll have that up next week. I have to go in and edit because we're in one room, so it creates one video for the whole day. So we're going through and putting sections up, so it's a little bit easier to digest. So that will be up next week, and I'll make sure to send an email out to everybody who participated in Children's Week when those updates have been made, so you're aware, and that will just stay live throughout the session, so you could use it as a resource to go back to if you'd like. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? We have a few minutes left before our 9 a.m.